Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with Brownells Daily Defense to talk to you about pistol effective range. So when we're talking about the pistol's accuracy, we're talking about not the accuracy of the gun itself, but how accurate you are with said pistol. And the thing that I try to get across to people is you need to think about this from three conditions: the time, the distance, and the exposure to the target. So the closer the target is, the less time you have. The further the target is, the more precision you need to apply. And then the amount of target exposed will also dictate how much time that you have. So if you understand time, distance, and exposure, it helps you to better come to grips with the different zones that we're going to talk about. So the first zone that we talk about is what we call the A zone. Now the A zone starts at contact range, which is 0, and moves to the 5-yard line. And inside of that zone, you can expect the majority of self-defense shootings. While there's plenty of instances of them occurring outside of that zone, it's still very likely that they're going to be inside that zone. So it's important that we respect that and we practice for that. We train, in a sense, for that type of condition. The second zone is going to be the B zone, and that's going to start from the 5 to the 10. And between A and B zones, you're going to probably get the vast majority of the self-defense shootings that you can find yourself in. So from the 0 contact range out to about the 10-yard line. The C zone is going to be from 10 to 25. Now, whether you like it or not, the C zone exists. And even if you don't want to kind of like expose yourself to it, it's important that you recognize that it's not a matter of being able to justify your ability to take a shot at the 25-yard line. So I don't need to come up with a reason. Well, I could find, statistically there's a reason for it. The real question is, can you? Can you take a shot inside that C zone? And what that really means is that are your skills capable of managing that type of precision requirement that is very common inside of the C zone ranges? Now the D zone represents the far extreme. That's going to be 25 yards and beyond. It is very unlikely you're going to need to be able to take a shot inside of those zones or inside the D zone. But the reality is that you need to be aware that distance is all around you. So just like at that C zone, I can find myself inside of a D zone situation very quickly. If I go to a big box store like a Lowe's or a Target, even my local grocery store, I can find myself inside one of these long aisles that easily goes past 25 yards. And while I may not be able to positively identify the target, when I see the target shooting at me through this narrow aisle, it's pretty easy for me to figure out what's happening at that point. Plus, being inside that aisle, my only defense mechanism that I have is to try to return accurate and effective fire, which means that I need to be able to hit targets at these extended ranges. Now, when it comes to your training allocation, like how much time do I want to put at that distance, that zone? Probably not a lot. Being realistic means that I have to understand that the majority of my shootings potentially could happen inside that A and B zone. So that means inside of 10 yards is where I want to spend the majority of my shooting. But I still need to spend time at that C zone because that C zone is really where your marksmanship skills come into their own. Once you have the ability to repeatedly hit targets at that 25-yard, what it does for you is it gives you a level of skill that is really unmatched on the battlefield. Accuracy reigns supreme on the battlefield. So if I'm able to hit a target at those distances, I can do a lot. It doesn't mean that I need to be that accurate at those close ranges. It just means that my accuracy is embedded inside of my skills. So as we move through these various zones, you'll recognize that each of them requires a different understanding of time, distance, and exposure. But the bottom line is that if you respect each of these zones and you practice proportionally for these zones, you're going to be a more well-rounded shooter, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, is to improve your effectiveness at the various zones that you most likely will find yourself in a self-defense shooting. So I'm Jeff Gonzalez. Would love to hear any of your questions or comments. Please feel free to post them down below. Until then, take care and stay safe.